Good afternoon. Now, a little bit about myself. My name is Detective Darryl Jones. I work here in Albany Police Department in Albany, Georgia, assigned to the Criminal Investigative Division. A little bit about myself. I was born and raised here in Albany, Georgia. I was raised here on the south side of town. I became interested in investigations as well as police work in high school. I even applied to become a police officer at the age of 18, which I was denied here at Albany Police Department. But I had a chance over at the Dougherty County Police Department. During the course of those interviews, I turned 19, which was the age here at Albany Police Department. I joined the Albany Police Department at 19, basically fresh out of high school. During that time that I joined the police department, I became interested in forensics and investigations. At that point, which I worked on the streets as a beat cop for about 4.5, 5 years. I was promoted to sergeant during that time, and I was solicited to come to the Criminal Investigation Bureau after that time. And since then, I've been in the Criminal Investigations Division. I'm assigned to criminal investigations, property crimes. I also do homicide. Here lately, after the Homeland Security Act, I was part of the Homeland Security Georgia Terrorism Information Project, which is Georgia-based, but also on a federal level. But today we're going to talk about serial murderers. I went through and picked serial murderers. This is going to be for serial murderers and their victims. CRJ 490, Thomas University. The serial murderer that I picked was called Eugene Watts. He was also known as the Sunday Morning Slasher. A little bit about Watts. He was born on November 7, 1953, died on September 21st, 2007. The number of victims were anywhere from 22 to 100. Mr. Watts, he picked victims from ages 14 to 44. Date of arrest, he was arrested back in May of 1983. His method of killing was stabbing, slashing, and strangulation. Carl Eugene Watts, he was convicted of 2 murders, but he admitted to more than 80. He got a thrill out of murdering, strangling women. The first case that he had was on a college campus. But before we get to that, I'm going to give you a little bit of background information on Eugene. He was born in Texas to Richard Eugene Watts and Dorothy Mae Young. He was described as strange as a child. He would do things that people look like, oh, wow, that stuff that shouldn't have been done by a little boy at the time. He fantasized about torturing and killing young girls at the tender age of 12. He stalked girls and said to have killed his first victim at the age of 15, which went unnoticed for a while, but during his confessions, it came out that while he was 15, he actually killed his first victim. He suffered from being bullied at school, in which triggered some of this strange activities about Eugene. He was arrested on June 29, 1969 for sexual assaulting a 26-year-old Joanne Gay. He was sentenced to a Lafayette clinic in Detroit and found to be suffering from mental retardation. They diagnosed him with a mild case of mental retardation at the time. He appeared to be very intelligent and had a good memory according to police. He was released on November 9, 1969, where he went ahead and graduated from high school in 1973. He had a full football scholarship to attend Lane College in Jackson, Tennessee. He was expelled after 3 months for, guess what, stalking and assaulting women as a suspect in a brutal murder of a student. There was a murder on campus of a student. She was found strangled and beat to death at the time. Eugene was actually a suspect at the time in the case, but they didn't have enough information to convict him. Carl Watts went on as a suspect and his career began as a serial killer at the age of 20, which was in 1974. On October 30th, 1974, Watts brutally murdered 20-year-old Gloria Steele, who was believed to be his second victim. During the course of his killings, Carl Eugene Watts, he usually picked younger white females, and these were mostly centered around college campuses. He would stalk his victims, and he'll just go ahead and kill them. Why he picked white females at the time was unknown, but it was mainly racially motivated. He killed women from ages of 14 to 44. He murdered between 1974 and 82. Now, what was strange about Carl Eugene Watts, like I said, he would go around, he would stalk the women or whatever, but it was what led to his capture was one night he was just circling the block. He saw there was this young white woman. She was walking. He rode by a couple of times. She started to get nervous or whatever. But what happened was the police were in the area already, and they actually did some type of surveillance where they just, watched. They rode around and watched Watts as he followed the young lady. Like I said, he was already a suspect in the murder on campus of a young woman at the time. Once he rode around, the police got suspicious, and they ended up stopping the vehicle with Watts in it. Watts made some spontaneous statements at the time in which the officer got more suspicious. At the point, they took him into custody for stalking a young lady. They took him to the police station where they questioned him. During the time that he was murdering young women, his methods of murder were strangulation, and he got some type of high off of strangling young white women and watching them die at the time. I mean, he liked to watch them blank out, and he liked to watch them die. He just got some type of fascination from that. Stabbing, he got fascination from watching somebody suffer from the stab wounds once he stabbed him. Bludgeoning, the murder on campus, he actually strangled the white woman and he beat her brains out, basically. Drowning, stalking, and sexual assault. Almost all the cases that he had, he sexually assaulted the victims. It was found through the process in which they went back and they did an autopsy and they found some type of sexual assault there. Arrest and discovery. On May 23rd, 1982, he was arrested for breaking into the home of two young women trying to kill them. Carl Eugene Watts broke into the house, but he made an unsuccessful attempt to actually murder the two women. During the whole course of the interview, he stated how his intentions were to go in and murder these two young women. They ended up getting away, calling the police, where Carl Eugene Watts was actually apprehended. He lived in Michigan until 1981 when he was suspected of killing 10 women at the time. He was questioned in 1975, but there was no evidence to convict him. He spent a year in prison for attacking the women who survived, and he confessed to 12 murders in Texas and a plea bargain of burglary with intent to commit murder. Once they interviewed Carl Eugene Watts in Texas, he gave information leading to murders that he did in Texas. He admitted to murders that he did in Michigan. So Texas got with Michigan and said, hey, we got this guy, Carl Eugene Watts. He's actually admitted to several murders in your state. Michigan went back and tried to interview some witnesses and victims, but they were unsuccessful in getting the evidence needed to actually charge Mr. Carl Eugene Watts at the time. So during the course of the Texas fiasco, he was sentenced in that case, and in Michigan, he was sentenced to 60 years on that case as part of the plea bargain. Michigan went back, like I said, talked to witnesses and others, and they finally came up with enough evidence to actually charge him and convict him. He was charged and convicted on November 17, 2004 for those murders in Michigan, and he was sentenced to life in prison. He went to trial in Michigan on July 25th, 2007, and was convicted. During the course of his interviews, he admitted to killing up to at least 100 women. And he stated that he got pleasure out of it. And in conclusion, he attempted to break out of prison by slipping through the bar, in which he was unsuccessful. And later after that, he died. They came back and sentenced him again November 17, 2004 for another murder. And he died in prison. But he was one of the deadliest serial murderers in U.S. history. Thank you.